At first, the answer seems obvious. If you generate your own electricity, you should pay less, right? But once you start looking into it, things get more complicated. Because not all generators are designed the same way. Traditional generators, for example, rely on fuel. So while they can power your home, they don't really solve the problem. They just shift the cost from your electric bill to fuel expenses. And sometimes that ends up being just as expensive, or even worse. Then you look at solar. It sounds like the ideal solution. Clean energy, long-term savings, independence. But the reality is different. High upfront costs, installation complexity, dependence on weather, and often years before you actually break even. So you're stuck in this strange position. You want to reduce your bill, but every solution seems to come with a different kind of cost. And that's where frustration builds. Because the problem isn't just the price of electricity, it's the lack of control. You're locked into a system where prices can rise, and there's very little you can do about it. So people start exploring alternatives, smaller systems, DIY approaches, independent setups. And this is where things get interesting, because some of these systems aren't trying to replace your entire energy supply. They're trying to offset it, to reduce dependency, instead of eliminating it completely. But when people try to build or use these systems, they often run into the same issue. They focus on the output, how much power is being generated, how much money is being saved. But they overlook something more fundamental, how the system actually works. Because reducing your electric bill isn't just about generating energy, it's about consistency, stability, and how that energy integrates with your daily usage. It's similar to trying to save money by earning more, without understanding where your money is going. You might increase income, but if the system isn't efficient, the results don't change much. And the same logic applies here. Some generators produce energy, but not in a way that meaningfully reduces dependency. Others require constant input, maintenance, or conditions that limit their usefulness. So even if they work, they don't always solve the real problem. And that leads to confusion. Because from the outside, everything looks promising, but the results don't always match the expectation. This is where most people get stuck. They try different solutions, compare options, watch reviews, but the core question remains unanswered. What actually makes a system effective at reducing your electric bill? And this is the turning point. Because the real issue isn't whether a generator can produce energy. It's whether it can do it in a way that reduces dependency on the grid in a consistent and practical way. That's the difference. Once you start looking at it from that perspective, things become clearer. You stop asking, does it work? And start asking, how does it fit into my system? Because in the end, reducing your electric bill isn't about finding a single solution. It's about understanding how energy flows through your home, where it's being used, how it's being generated, and how those two things connect. And when those pieces start aligning, that's when you begin to see real change. Not just in numbers, but in control. If you want a more structured breakdown of how these systems are designed to reduce dependency and what actually matters when evaluating them, you can find a practical guide linked in the description. It walks through these concepts in a more grounded and simplified way. And if you're interested in exploring more topics like this, you can subscribe for future videos. That's where we continue breaking complex ideas into something you can actually understand and apply.